I mean, you can use maps for a variety of needs, right? But it doesn't mean that it's used for bad, evil reasons or anything. But what we focus on is our mission. When we work with our clients, we are very particular about what problem are they trying to solve here, and does that have like an impact that's striving for something for the greater good, for the community, for the globe, really. And that's one of the key things that we try to use.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Sowmya Subramanian. She's the lead product manager at Development Seed. Sowmya, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Kelsey.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Sowmya, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Sowmya Subramanian. I was born and raised in Mumbai, and right now I live in Milwaukee. My parents are retired, but they have a fun story as well. My dad was a legal advisor, and my mom worked in admin support for the Department of Atomic Energy, which I know right now sounds extra cool because of Oppenheimer becoming such a big hit movie. Right now, I work as a lead product manager at Development Seed, which is a geospatial client servicing firm. We primarily do software development and focus on climate solutions, humanitarian sector, and typically we like to work in the open science domain.
Interesting. So, it sounds like you had an interesting journey getting to Development Seed. Tell me a little bit more about, what Development Seed does.
Yeah, so if I had to give like a quick pitch, we like to say we work on world's hardest geospatial problem. They really are some of the problems that we do work on. They really are some of the hardest problems, let alone geospatial. They range from identifying infrastructure needs in remote locations across the world to detecting oil spills or plastic pollution out in the ocean.
Interesting. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, so like I said, it is a client servicing firm, and our expertise lies in geospatial software development. So we use geospatial data ranging from satellite images to street view imagery to capture key information, key features that you can grab from those. It can also be other geospatial like map data on like lat long type of information to figure out where, say, a building is, or like I said, oil spills. So you can use satellite data to detect where there was an oil spill because of the change in how the different wavelengths react to light. So that's super interesting. We use machine learning models at times, sometimes not. But in any case, these are like massive data sets. So we use cloud infrastructure to ingest a lot of those massive satellite and street view imagery to then detect the different features and then solve for the problems that people have. Yeah, it's very unique, very fun. It's something that I've never ever worked on before.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, and how long have you been with Development Seed?
Now it's coming close to 2 years.
Okay, wow.
I imagine 2021.
I imagine, with the turn of AI, you've probably seen a lot of growth even over the last couple of years just being at Development Seed in your role. Talk to me a little bit kind of about the growth that you've seen and have heard about kind of before you started at Development Seed.
Yeah, so I think there are a few things that I've seen very relevant to Development Seed, especially with the pandemic. So the first thing is the pandemic saw a huge increase in people focusing on, climate change and working towards something greater than themselves, right? Which is incredible. And DevSeed is an expert at solving those problems. So we saw the change in business needs for that as well, where we saw a lot of companies coming into us, and our team grew from like a 20 odd professionals to now close to 60 professionals. So, it's that should speak to the volume of the problems that we are solving and the need for these kind of solutions. Particularly talking about AI, I do work with a core team of machine learning developers, and that's the area that we are seeing. It has bombarded, especially with ChatGPT, but even before, AI can solve issues that can help us avoid redundant work that's boring or maybe needs a lot of precision that's hard for the human element to do those things. So having AI really helps solve a lot of those things. Something that's very important for DevSeed that we don't take it lightly is the ethics aspect of AI and where we use it and where not to use it. So we always keep that in our forethought even before we start working on any of our projects. And as these things have come up, we also try to keep up with those and, in fact, innovate on those. So one example is, of course, using large language models such as GPTs to build solutions. How can we be smarter about searching something like give me all satellite imagery in Istanbul from 2022, something like that, right? That's something you can potentially find as long as your data supports within that product, of course. To other solutions like segment anything model, that's incredible because it saves a lot of human element in annotations and whatnot across different satellite imagery and different mapping solutions. So we try to stay on top of those things and innovate on top of that so that these are all open source available. These are made available open source, and we use them in our client projects as well.
And, when you're talking about your client projects, do you see trends in industries, size companies that tend to work with development seed?
So we've seen that most of our clients, it's not, of course, there's always those unique cases, but usually we work with large governmental agencies like the NASA's and the UN and the World Bank, right? But then you also have a lot of local to national or even international nonprofits that work with us. Red Cross is one example, to a very niched local nonprofits such as Child Poverty Action Labs, which is based out of Dallas. So we work with them on a project. So it really depends, but primarily we work with a lot of nonprofits as well as government agencies.
Interesting. And, doing some research on development seed, mapping for good has been a reoccurring theme in a lot of your projects. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. So, you can use maps for a variety of needs, right? But, and it doesn't mean that it's used for bad, evil reasons or anything, but what we focus on is our mission. When we work with our clients, we're very particular about what problem are they trying to solve here, and does that have like an impact that's striving for something for the greater good, for the community, for the globe, really. And that's one of the key things that we try to use, particularly because we try to default to open source and open data. So we are very cognizant of the impact that it can have, right? So you could use that for bad. So we want to make sure what we are putting out there into the world, it's being used for the greater good. And so that's where we try to be very mindful of the problem we are trying to solve here. And we're building solutions that in some ways can protect what it's being used for within our control and even without.
Do you think it's that emphasis on, the greater good for society is one of the ways that the development seed is really able to separate itself from its competition?
That's one way I would say. So, like I said, that is one of the filters that we do, even from the get-go, right? When you first talk to us, we are very particular about why you're working on that problem, right? And then the other thing that really separates us, well, a couple of things, but they go hand in hand, where it's like we like to work. We don't think of our clients as clients, so we're not a dev shop. Even though we are a software development company, we work with them as partners. And we want them to know that. We want them to trust us and we trust them, so that we always are working hand in hand with them. It's not like you give us a problem or like a feature list, we go and build that for you and come back, right? It's not just the quality of the product, but keeping taking you along the ride, so that we are building what you really need. And now when things change, the whole agile mindset where, as the market needs change, we adapt to that. As well as if there's like, oh, you know what, as you start working on a problem, you realize there's this tangential problem. Now, is it something to be solved for or not? We don't want the client to make that decision in a vacuum, nor do we want to make that decision. So we make that in a partnership as well. So we take you along the ride. We work with you from the problem formulation, not just the definition, but the formulation itself, because sometimes you don't know when geospatial data can actually solve a problem, right? Like precision farming, precision agriculture, I had no clue that you could use satellite data for that. So when I learned that, that was mind-blowing to me. So that's where we can work with you on those things, to defining the problem, the scope of what we're trying to solve here, and then all the way across to the solution and how you deliver, so that it's actually impactful and not just another problem that sits out there, right? You don't want that. Or not problem, but solution, right? So that's what we work on. And the other thing is our expertise, because of the geospatial expertise that we come in. Like I said, it's hand in hand. So as we're working with you through the process, that really sets us apart, because not many companies that I know of have that expertise, that geospatial expertise. We have the science expertise. Now, we're not subject matter experts. We rely on our clients for that, but we do have the science expertise to figure out what kind of models, not always AI-driven model, but any kind of model really can be used here, the different science formulations that help this particular thing. So that's what sets us apart, in my opinion.
That's fantastic. And, I'm curious to pick your brain a little bit more about kind of taking a different turn, talking about common misconceptions in the industry. I imagine that there is probably people thinking that they have an understanding, but it's a very technical kind of niche area that you're in. So talk to me a little bit about some common misconceptions that you tend to hear often.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and kind of a difficult question to answer. I guess the main thing that I have noticed is you need to be a science expert to work with us, or you need to have like tons and tons of money to work with satellite data. That's not always true, right? We can help figure out what is the crux of your problem and figure out what's the best value for the money that you have to offer, right? And often we do notice, especially with like smaller nonprofits, sometimes there's this misconception that instead of using all this scientific data, let's focus on like in situ, or like local man, how do I say that, like let's send people out into the field and field inspector grab that data for us, and that's the only way to do that. But that's not always the case. Yes, that's incredible and nothing beats that, but you don't always just need to rely on that. It can be very tedious, it can be slow, it can be very expensive, sometimes not even something that you can do, because there are remote locations. You can't really send field inspectors. Doesn't come without like political risks or other environmental risks involved. So that's where we can come in and bring in all these other elements, such as like remote sensing data, right? That's one of our expertise, and we can show you how we could maybe blend that with your field data that you can get, so that they can go hand in hand and build you the solution that's the most precise and the most informative and insightful that you need.
Interesting. Well, Sowmya, I think this has been, a terrific conversation. As we start to wrap up, where can people go to learn more information about Development Seed?
Yeah, so we have a website. I can share the link, but it's pretty much developmentseed.org. That's our website. We are going through a massive refresh right now, so there's a lot of information already out there, but a lot of it is going to come by end of this year.
Oh, that's exciting.
But also, yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, and we are also pretty active on Twitter, and we are trying to also branch out to other socials.
Fantastic. Well, Sowmya, I think this has been a terrific, super enlightening conversation. I appreciate all of your great insights and your expertise in the industry. I think this was fantastic, and I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for this opportunity. This was incredible, and we are just passionate about spreading the word because often when you think about software, you think about all these tech products and all these fun stuff, which is great, right? But at the same time, we know that we can reach to a wider audience, and we are here to help.
I love that. Fantastic. Well, Sowmya, thank you again so much. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, thank you, Kelsey.